Hassler here. I'm going to work through the 1.5 Explore. This is actually a really great extension of what we've been working on in 1.4, and it will help us talk about what we're going to do in 1.5. So it says that Cece arranges her dots candy before eating them. The pattern grows until she runs out. So I have figure 1, 2, and 3. How do you see the pattern growing? Use colors, visuals, or words to describe your thinking. So again, anytime I have a picture, what I like to do is I like to start counting what's in the picture. And because they're talking about dots, I'm going to count the number of dots. So I've got 1 in the middle, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I like to label that I have 5 dots. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I added a dot onto each arm of this X. And so I've got 9. And then again, I have the 9 plus the 4 more that we've added on, so 13. So how do you see the pattern growing? I see that we're adding a dot to each arm, which means that I'm adding 4 dots each time. Right, and so describe or sketch what figure 4 would look like. Well, figure 4 is going to look like figure 3, but it's going to have one more dot on the end of each arm. Or we can say, hey, figure 4 had 13 plus 4 more is going to get me 17 in figure 4. So you can either draw those 17 dots extending the arm, each arm of the X, or you could add 4 on. Is there a faster way to figure out the number of dots in figure 4 rather than counting them one by one? So yeah, we could do what I just did. Yes, add 4 dots to figure 13 or figure 3. But something else that was brought up in class is this idea of, hey, I notice that there's always this dot in the middle. And so I've got this 1 dot in the middle plus figure 1 has 1 dot on each arm. And figure 2 has 2 dots on each arm. And figure 3 has 3 dots on each arm. So figure 4 would have 4 dots on each arm. And there's always 4 arms. And so I'm going to label these things so that we can follow along a little better. That 1 dot is the middle dot. So 1 is the dot in the middle. 4 is 4 dots per each arm because I'm in figure 4. And 4 here is the number of arms that I have. And so if I do 1 plus 4 times 4, I get 17. So I could either keep adding 4 dots, or I can use some operations to observe the pattern that is happening here. So it says, use your strategy to find the total number of dots in figure 6. Okay, so we had 2 strategies that we talked about. We said that we could just keep adding on. We said that figure 4 has 17, so I could add 4. And so that would be 21. And if I add 4 more, I get 25. We could use this idea here, and we could say, hey, I have 1 dot in the middle plus 4 dots per each, not 4 dots per each arm. We're going to have now 6 dots per each arm. Figure 6 has 6 dots per each arm, and there are 4 arms. And if I do 1 plus 6 times 4, I get 25. Somebody else brought up in class another strategy. They said, hey, I have 17, but I'm going to add 4 twice. So instead of saying plus 4, they said plus 4 times 2. And that also got them 25. They're just counting up how many times I'm going to have to add 4 to get from figure 4 to figure 6. They have to do it twice. So they just did multiplication instead of repeated addition. Use your strategy to represent the total number of dots in figure N. If possible, write 2 different rules. All right, I'm actually going to follow what we were doing here. We said, hey, there are 4 arms times my figure number, right? Figure number, figure 4, figure number, figure 6 times 4 arms, plus the 1 that is in the middle. Another way we could write this is we could say, hey, I've got 4 dots per arm every time, times the previous. So if I multiply by the previous number, n minus 1, figure n would be, this would represent previous number, previous figure, plus 5, because that's how many dots in the first figure. We could actually do some simplifying to see if this matches up. So this is what 1.5 is going to get into, this idea of distributing and combining like terms. So if I distribute, I get 4n, and then 4 times negative 1 is a minus 4 plus 5. And then I notice that I can combine the negative 4 plus 5 to give me 4n plus 1. And that matches what we had here. And so, again, we're just going to, start talking about writing these explicit formulas. Notice whatever I'm changing by is the number being multiplied by n. It turns out that this plus 1 would be the number in the 0th spot. And so I want to go back up and talk to you about that. Or we can talk about this previous term. Sometimes throws people off with that n minus 1. So let's come back up here and say, hey, if this is my figure 1 and figure 2 and figure 3, how many dots would be in figure 0? So I'm going backwards. So if I'm moving backwards, instead of adding 4, right, I'm adding 4 to move in a forward direction, I would have to subtract 4. And 5 subtract 4 gives me 1 dot, that 1 dot in the middle, 1. And so that turns out to be my formula, 4n, because I'm changing by 4, plus 1, because 1 dot would be in the 0th figure. So just a reminder of one way that we can come up with that explicit formula. All right, so I'm going to do notes on our notes page for 1.5, and the notes that I do for 1.5 are going to relate to this last idea, the distributive property and combining like terms. So please make sure that you get those notes filled out because there's some extra pieces of information that are going to be in those notes.